What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Monday Night Wars. This is week 22 of WCW NITRO, February 19th, 1996. The 25th episode of NITRO in its history, but the 22nd week they've gone head-to-head because 3 times Raw was off the air when they've gone head-to-head with NITRO, including last week. Raw was off the air, so NITRO scored its highest rating ever with a 3.7, obviously because Raw was off the air. NITRO again this week drew a high rating at 2.9. But Raw drew a 3.1, so NITRO lost by 0.2 this week. So through 22 weeks, including this one, it's 10 wins for NITRO, 10 wins for Raw, and 2 draws. That's how close it's been. This 22nd week of NITRO in the Wars is brought to you by McMichael, Bischoff, and Heenan. You've got a 2.9 rating, again, to Raw's 3.1. So this 2.9 rated show begins with Bischoff talking about how Liz screwed Randy Savage out of the title at Super Brawl and joined Ric Flair's side. And last week how Arn went at it with Hogan and was blinded by Woman with the powder, and then Hogan with the shoe by Arn Anderson caught Hogan in the eye, busting his eye open up even more than it already was. Savage has a ton of emotions flying around. He still wants Flair even though he went through Hugh Morris last week. He faces Flair for the world title tonight. The Super Brawl rematch is in the main event. Flair mentioned that he has the woman, he has the gold, he's got Hogan on the run, and now all he has to do is beat Savage tonight, and then he's got it all. Flair even saying, I got the whole world in my hands to Savage before their main event. But let's get to the show first. It kicks things off live on TNT from the Winneco Civic Center in Salisbury, Maryland. Arn Anderson with Woman, M.NT.WARS, taking on Hulk Hogan in the opening match of NITRO. Hogan caught in the eye by Woman's powder last week and the shoe by Arn, as I mentioned. Hogan has never lost twice in a row, says Bischoff on commentary, to the same person, so Arn tries to do just that in the opening match on NITRO. Arn Anderson drags Hogan's bat out of the turnbuckle and hits him a few times repeatedly, and then buried a shot towards Double A on the canvas. He choked him out to the 4 count, and he was risking getting disqualified just to get revenge on Arn Anderson, but he didn't. A heel for a heel as Hogan gets his boot up into Arn's face. Hogan dominating Arn, choking him out with the boot to the corner. Hogan sucks is surprisingly chanted as we're getting closer and closer to Hogan's heel turn, and you can see the reasons why they did it. They were noticing these chants. Double A rakes the back of Hogan. And then in the corner, Irish whips him, and then he gets a DDT. Hulk then hulks up and doesn't feel anything from the DDT and makes Arn eat a big boot. Hogan goes for the figure 4 of all moves. All of a sudden, Savage and the Taskmaster both run to the ring at the same time. Nick Patrick DQs Hogan because Savage's run-in was first. Double A wins by DQ at 7:02 after Macho Man ran out before Sullivan. So technically, Arn has 2 wins in a row over Hogan, even though this was by DQ. Says Bischoff. Not bad. 2 stars. Loch Ness is a big guy, big core girth with Jimmy Hart versus Alex Wright. He's just a monster of a man. He just went at it with the young German Alex Wright. I think Wright deserves better than to job, but he jobbed to the Loch Ness here. A drop kick, elbow drop. Loch Ness wins at 2:21 after driving right to the canvas floor, and then an elbow drop. An impressive victory for him, rated at 3/4 of a star. Next, we got a good match between Brad Armstrong and the Belfast Bruiser, who's of course Fit Finlay. Armstrong and Finlay go at it. Bischoff mentions there's going to be a tournament for the Cruiserweight title coming up. Can't wait for that. Finlay ties up with Brad Armstrong here. Brad Armstrong has his face raked and a snapmare by Finlay. He begs him to stay off, but Finlay had elbows and a surfboard-style submission, variation of a double armbar. Brad Armstrong fights back, taking the Bruiser to the corner. Armstrong caught with a huge forearm and then a sleeper and a snapmare, a shoulder block, then a hip toss takedown. A lot of good technical wrestling in this match. A half crab in the middle of the ring into an STF by Armstrong, a leg lock, then a grapevine to the ankle. Finlay says no. Brad Armstrong taking it to the floor. Both of them fall out there. Finlay with a backslide and a near fall back in the ring. Bruiser catches a boot. Then Brad Armstrong with the 2 inverted slams. Ducks a clothesline and a backbreaker by Finlay. At 6:47, Finlay got the win after a tilt-a-whirl slam. Good match, Finlay. And at the end, Finlay says, at the winner's Finlay, I meant. And Finlay says at the end, where are you, Regal? As they're building towards Finlay versus Regal at Uncensored. I gave that match 2.5 stars. The main event of NITRO had Ric Flair defending the world title. He has Elizabeth and Woman, M.NT.WARS in his corner. First Macho Man Randy Savage for the world title. Flair has both Nancy Benoit and Miss Elizabeth along with the world title. Savage has sore limbs and a broken heart on commentary. That's what they say. Ric Flair sings, I have the whole world in my hands. Macho Man Randy Savage surprisingly takes his time unrobing and taking off the hat. Usually he's ripping it off when he's this vengeful, but now he takes it to. He does do a fake out jab. He takes it to the World Heavyweight Champion. Macho Man takes out Flair and locks up with him. Flair is reversed into the corner. Savage lands jabs headfirst into the buckle and a back body drop. Savage systematically takes it to Flair and rolls out of the canvas. A big boot to the back of the skull by Flair. This one went back and forth into the guardrail. Flair chops Macho Man after he went off after Woman, who blinded him last week. He goes after Woman. No, that was Hogan that was blinded. Savage was screwed over by Woman and Elizabeth the week before, so that's why Savage is going after Woman, but he's distracted and Flair rakes his eyes. See, I got confused with the raking of the eyes and the eye powder, because it was Woman did both of them. Woman rakes the eyes of Savage in the ring, and they say that Bischoff mentions that Woman hurt him physically, Elizabeth hurt him emotionally, and now Flair's hurting him spiritually, as the world title that Flair holds for a 13th time has Savage's name on it still. Macho Man fought back, but a face-first elbow made Flair do his face flop. Again, Ric Flair, when he has that mushroom cut, when he does the face flop, it's even funnier. Just because it looks so ridiculous. Savage still is in no hurry to break up the hold, as he held on every single hold he could with the rope leverage to the 4 count, risking disqualification because his hatred for Flair was that high. Flair and Macho Man had tons of emotions, and they're fatigued at this world title bout. He hit a shoulder tackle to Savage, then clotheslines, then 2 leapfrogged into a reverse elbow, a standing vertical suplex by Flair, then more chops, and then an atomic drop to the sore knee of Savage, looking to lock in the figure 4, and Flair does so. Savage is not giving up. He's in tough here. He staggers around and he wobbles around, an Irish whip countered into a backslide pinning attempt by Macho Man, near fall. Savage receives a chop, taking more shots from the champ. Savage jabs back and gets another chop. Savage spits in Flair's face, and then Rick goes down to his knees and begs no, while Savage wiggles his finger hilariously. Goes up top, 6 or 7 shots on Flair on the top rope elbow. Woman gives Flair a shoe, but Savage caught it and hit Flair. He was going to pin to become champ, but Sullivan came out and distracted the referee. Arn Anderson comes out and plants Macho Man with the DDT behind the ref, looking at Sullivan, and Flair wins. So basically what happened there was 2 things. Savage and Flair were going at it. Sullivan came running out, so the referee was distracted by Kevin Sullivan. So he's distracted. Woman threw a shoe for Flair to hit Savage. Savage caught the shoe, hit Ric Flair, so Savage is going to be the new world champion, right? He's covering Flair, but the ref is distracted by Sullivan. So Arn Anderson, who ran to the ring, DDTs Savage and then puts Flair on top of Savage. So now when the ref turns around after being distracted by Sullivan, he sees Flair covering Savage thanks to Arn Anderson's DDT. So Flair gets the victory over Macho Man to retain the title. Good match. I rated it 2 stars and 3/4, but the usual interference from the usual suspects. The show ends with the Booty Man, Brutus Beefcake, dropping, I'm not calling him that, that's his name, of one of his many names in his career. He has like 12 names, I remember, like the Booty Man, Zodiac, Brutus Beefcake, the Brother Brudai, the Disciple. There's so many other ones. There's like a dozen. Brother Brudai. The show, and anyway, Bischoff says it was a tainted victory for Flair, obviously with all the interference. Flair says, look at the new kids on the block. Bischoff says, this is not a war zone. This is not a war zone. Vince listening to that? War zone? Savage and Hogan both want to knock out Bischoff on commentary because they're so mad. But they say next week they want a 6-man tag. They'll have the Booty Man on their side against the Horseman. Mean Gene says, let's get some words back to Bischoff. And Bischoff says there'll be a 6-man tag next week here on Nitro. I gave this Nitro, it was a wild one. I gave it a 6 out of 10. This 22nd week, it lost to Raw by 0.2 in the ratings. It drew a 2.9 to Raw's 3.1. Quality-wise, again, a 6 out of 10. Good match. The Flair Savage match was good. Arn Hogan was watchable. Good promos. Through 22 weeks, It's 10, 10, and 2. Nitro and Raw are tied. They're that close. So I'll see you next week on the Nitro Review. I'm Brett Mix, and I'm out.